Captain Lee Hanna stepped off the transport shuttle and looked up at the massive metal walls of Kepler Station, stretching far above her head into the darkness of space. The station was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built, with lights that blinked and moved in patterns she did not understand. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at the station, like metal fish swimming around a giant reef. Some ships looked like smooth silver eggs, others had sharp edges and glowing parts, and a few seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light from nearby stars. She walked through the airlock with her team following behind her. The gravity felt normal, which was good because some alien stations made humans feel too heavy or too light to walk properly. The air smelled strange, though, like metal mixed with something sweet that made her nose itch a little. Her diplomatic aide Park Ji-ho walked beside her, carrying a case full of documents and trade agreements that took months to prepare back on Earth. The main corridor of the station was wide enough for 20 people to walk side by side without bumping into each other. The walls were covered in screens showing news and information in languages that looked like dancing symbols and flowing water. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridor, some walking on two legs like humans, others floating in the air or rolling on many small legs. Hanna had studied pictures of different alien species before coming here, but seeing them in person was different. A group of tall, thin creatures with blue skin and 4 arms walked past her, speaking in voices that sounded like singing birds. Behind them came a being that looked like a walking tree with glowing fruit hanging from its branches. 2 small aliens that reminded her of fuzzy balls with eyes bounced along the floor, making clicking sounds to each other. Most of the aliens looked at the human group with curiosity but kept walking. Humans were still new to the galaxy, having joined the Galactic Council only 5 years ago. Many alien species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, building huge civilizations while humans were still learning to make fire. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. The meeting room was in the center of the station, a large space with a round table made of some kind of smooth black stone. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat around the table, each one looking very different from the others. Hanna took her seat between Ji-ho and Commander Kim Subin, who had come along to provide military advice if needed. The leader of today's meeting was Kex Thul, a trade minister from the Vorthan Empire. He was tall and thin with gray skin that looked like metal, and his eyes glowed with a soft red light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like 2 pieces of metal scraping against each other, but the universal translator in Hanna's ear made his words clear and easy to understand. We are here today to discuss new trade routes between the Vorthan Empire and the human territories, Kex Thul said, his glowing eyes looking directly at Hanna. However, before we begin, there are concerns about human military capabilities that must be addressed. Hanna kept her face calm even though she felt anger starting to build inside her chest. She had expected this kind of challenge. Many alien species thought humans were weak because they did not have the natural weapons that other races possessed. Humans had no claws, no poison, no energy beams that shot from their eyes. They had only their minds and their tools. What concerns do you have about human military forces? Hanna asked in a steady voice. Kex Thul made a sound that might have been laughter but sounded more like grinding gears. Your species relies entirely on primitive projectile weapons and explosive devices. You have no natural combat abilities whatsoever. In a fair fight, any human would fall to a properly trained warrior from a more evolved species. Park Ji-ho's face turned red with anger, and Hanna could see his hands making fists under the table. He was young and proud, and hearing someone insult his species made his blood boil like water on a hot stove. Humans have fought and won wars against enemies much stronger than us, Ji-ho said, his voice shaking a little with emotion. We may not have claws or energy weapons built into our bodies, but we have something more important. We have the will to fight and the intelligence to win. Kex Thul's metal face twisted into what looked like a smile, but there was no warmth in it. Around the table, other alien representatives leaned forward to listen more carefully. This was becoming more than just a trade discussion, and everyone could feel the tension growing in the air like storm clouds gathering before rain. Will and intelligence, Kexthul repeated, his voice dripping with scorn. Pretty words, but can they stop claws that can cut through steel? Can they block energy blasts that can melt rock? I think not. The Vorthan minister stood up from his chair, his tall frame casting a shadow across the table. In fact, I believe humans are so dependent on their weapons that without them they are completely helpless. Remove a human's gun, and you have nothing but a weak, slow creature with soft skin and blunt teeth. Other aliens around the table began to murmur among themselves. Some nodded in agreement with Kexthul's words, while others watched to see how the humans would respond. Hana could feel, all eyes on her, waiting to see if she would back down from this challenge or stand up for her species. That is an interesting theory, Hana said slowly, choosing her words carefully. But theories are just ideas until they are tested. Kexthul's glowing eyes brightened, and he leaned forward like a hunter who had spotted easy prey. Yes, they must be tested. I propose a simple experiment to prove my point. Let any human face 3 warriors from different species in unarmed combat. No weapons, no armor, no tools of any kind. Just natural ability against natural ability. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of the station's air recycling system. This was not just an insult anymore. It was a formal challenge that would be broadcast across the galaxy if accepted. Refusing would make humans look weak and afraid, but accepting could result in serious injury or death for whoever stepped into the arena. Jiho started to speak, probably to accept the challenge himself, but Hana held up her hand to stop him. She stood up slowly, her movements calm and controlled like a cat preparing to pounce. I accept your challenge, she said in a voice that carried clearly through the room. But I choose the rules. 3 opponents, no weapons, no armor, victory, by submission or unconsciousness. The fight will take place in the station's public arena so that all can witness the results. Kexthul's smile grew wider, showing teeth that looked like small metal spikes. Excellent. I will provide 3 champions, each from a different species, known for their combat abilities. The fight will be tomorrow at midday, giving enough time for word to spread throughout the station. Around the table, alien representatives began talking excitedly among themselves. Some pulled out communication devices to contact their homeworlds with news of the upcoming battle. Others started making bets on how quickly the human would be defeated. As the meeting broke up and aliens filed out of the room, Jiho grabbed Hana's arm with worry written all over his face. Captain, what have you done? These are not just any warriors. They will send their best fighters. Warriors who have trained their whole lives for combat. Hana looked at her young aide with calm eyes that showed no fear or doubt. Sometimes, Jiho, the only way to change someone's mind is to show them something they have never seen before. Commander Kim Subin approached them with concern in her voice. Captain, I must advise against this course of action. The medical facilities here may not be equipped to handle the injuries you might sustain. Hana smiled for the first time since entering the station, and there was something in that smile that made both of her companions feel a little better despite their worries. Do not worry about me, she said softly. Worry about whether the arena's medical team is prepared to handle 3 unconscious alien warriors. Hana walked through the corridors of her ship with steady steps while her crew watched her with worried faces. The human diplomatic vessel Sejong was small compared to the alien ships docked at Kepler Station, but it was home to 37 people who had traveled far from Earth to make new friends among the stars. Now their captain had put herself in danger to defend the honor of their entire species. The ship's training room was located near the back, a simple space with padded floors and mirrors on the walls. Hana had used this room every day during their long journey from Earth, keeping her body strong and her skills sharp, even in the cold emptiness of space. She changed into loose white clothes that allowed her to move freely and began her daily practice routine. Her movements started slow and smooth like water flowing down a hillside. She raised one leg high above her head, then swept it down in a powerful arc that would have knocked any opponent to the ground. Her arms moved in circles, in straight lines, blocking invisible attacks and striking at enemies only she could see. Each movement flowed into the next like music made visible, a dance that was both beautiful and deadly. Park Jiho stood in the doorway watching his captain practice. and for the first time he began to understand that maybe she was not as crazy as he had thought. Her movements were too precise and too smooth to be anything but the result of years of training. When she spun and kicked, her foot moved so fast it made a whistling sound through the air. "How long have you been training like this?" he asked when she paused to rest. Hana wiped sweat from her forehead with a small towel and smiled at the memory of her childhood. "My grandfather, Lee Do-hyun, started teaching me when I was 5 years old. He said that every human should know how to fight without weapons because weapons can be taken away, but knowledge stays in your mind and body forever." She began moving again, this time practicing throws and grappling techniques that involved grabbing and twisting imaginary opponents. "He taught me that fighting is not about being angry or wanting to hurt someone. It is about understanding your body and your opponent's body, knowing where they are strong and where they are weak." Commander Kim Subin entered the training room carrying a datapad filled with information about the 3 warriors who would face Hana tomorrow. Her face was serious and worried as she read from the screen. "Captain, I have received the official list of your opponents. The first is called Gorth, a Krillian berserker who stands 8 feet tall and weighs over 400 pounds. He has natural armor plates under his skin and has never lost a fight. The second is Zixara, a Nexari assassin known for speed and razor-sharp claws that can cut through metal. The third is Thonkar, a Vorthon combat specialist who can generate electrical energy with his body." Hana continued her movements while listening, showing no change in her calm expression. "What else do you know about them?" Subin scrolled through more information on her datapad. "Gorth relies on brute strength and overwhelming force. He charges at his enemies like a bull and crushes them with his bare hands. Zixara is the opposite, using speed and precision to strike at weak points before her opponents can react. Thonkar stays at a distance and uses energy attacks to weaken enemies before moving in for close combat." The communications officer, Choi Yoonji, appeared in the doorway with excitement in her voice. "Captain, I have been researching combat records in the Galactic database and I found something very interesting. No alien species has practiced systematic unarmed combat for over 2,000 years. This news made Hana stop moving and look directly at Yoonji. "What do you mean?" Yoonji stepped into the room and activated a holographic display that showed star charts and historical data. Most alien species evolved natural weapons like claws, poison, or energy projection abilities. When they developed advanced technology, they stopped training their bodies for combat because their natural weapons combined with energy weapons made old fighting styles seem unnecessary. The hologram showed images of different alien species throughout history. They have individual fighters who are strong or fast because of their biology, but they do not have organized fighting systems like humans developed. No schools, no training, methods, no techniques passed down from teacher to student. Hana felt a warm feeling grow in her chest as she began to understand what this meant. "So they think fighting without weapons means just hitting and grabbing randomly." "Exactly," Yoonji said with a smile. "They have no concept of martial arts as we understand them. To them, unarmed combat is just a test of natural physical abilities." Dr. Yoon Minho joined the group, carrying his medical scanner and looking concerned about his captain's health. "I have been analyzing the physical capabilities of your opponents based on their species biology. Captain, I must warn you that each of them possesses significant advantages in terms of strength, speed, or special abilities." Hana nodded and resumed her practice, moving through a series of joint locks and pressure point techniques. "Doctor, do you remember the story of David and Goliath from Old Earth legends?" "Of course," Minho replied. "A small shepherd boy defeated a giant warrior with nothing but a sling and a stone. The lesson of that story was not about the power of the sling," Hana said as she demonstrated a throw that would use an opponent's weight against them. "It was about using intelligence and skill to overcome brute force. Sometimes being smaller and faster is better than being big and strong." She moved to the center of the room and began practicing a series of kicks that struck at different heights and angles. "My grandfather taught me that every living creature has weak points, places where a precise strike can disable them regardless of their size or strength. The key is knowing where these points are and being fast enough to hit them, Before your opponent realizes what is happening, Park Ji-ho watched his captain move with growing confidence. What if they attack you all at once? Can your techniques work against multiple opponents? Hana spun in a circle, her arms and legs moving in a complex pattern that would block attacks from several directions while striking back at the same time. Fighting multiple opponents is about controlling distance and timing. You never let them surround you, and you never fight them all at the same time. You use their own movements against each other, make them get in each other's way. The ship's computer chimed softly, indicating that someone was trying to contact them from outside. Yoonji checked her communication device and looked surprised at what she found. Captain, we are receiving messages from Earth. Word of your challenge has already reached home, and people are sending you support and advice. Hana paused in her practice and looked at Yoonji with interest. What kind of advice? Master Kim Tae-hyun from the Seoul Training Center says to remember that speed beats strength, and timing beats speed. Grandmaster Park Min-seo from Busan sends her blessing and reminds you that the mind is the most important weapon, and your grandfather Lee Do-yeon has sent a personal message. Yoonji activated the holographic display again, and suddenly the image of an elderly Korean man appeared in the room. His hair was white with age, but his eyes were bright and alert, and his posture showed the confidence of someone who had spent his whole life training his body and mind. My dear granddaughter, the old man said in a voice full of warmth and pride, I have heard about the challenge you have accepted, and I want you to know that I am not worried about the outcome. You have trained well, and your techniques are strong. But remember that fighting is not just about technique. It is about understanding your opponent's mind as well as their body. The image of Lee Do-hyun smiled gently. These aliens think that humans are weak, because we do not have claws or armor. They do not understand that we have something much more valuable. We have the ability to learn and adapt, to study our enemies and find their weaknesses. Use this gift, and you will not fail. The message ended, leaving the training room quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Hana felt strength flow through her body as she remembered all the lessons her grandfather had taught her over the years. Each technique, each principle, each story about the old masters who had developed these fighting arts long before humans ever dreamed of traveling to the stars. She looked at her crew members, these people who had followed her across the galaxy, and now watched her prepare for a battle that would determine how the rest of the universe saw their species. Tomorrow I will show them something they have never seen before, she said quietly. I will show them what happens when a human fights not with anger or fear, but with knowledge and precision. They expect a weak creature who will panic and flail around helplessly. Instead, they will face a warrior trained in arts that have been perfected over thousands of years. Hana returned to her practice, moving through forms that combined striking, grappling, and throwing techniques in smooth, flowing sequences. Each movement was performed with the precision of someone who had repeated it 10,000 times, until it became as natural as breathing. Her crew watched in silence, finally beginning to understand that their captain was not just brave or foolish. She was a master of something the galaxy had forgotten, carrying knowledge that could change how every species viewed humanity's place among the stars. The morning of the fight arrived with the artificial sunrise that Kepler Station used to mark the beginning of each day's cycle. Hana woke early and spent an hour in meditation, sitting quietly in her cabin while her mind prepared for what was to come. She did not think about winning or losing, but focused on breathing and centering her thoughts like her grandfather had taught her when she was a child. The central arena of Kepler Station was enormous, built to accommodate the entertainment needs of dozens of different species. It could hold 50,000 spectators in seats that curved around a circular fighting area the size of a small city block. The arena floor was made of a special material that could absorb impacts and prevent serious injuries, though it was still hard enough that falling on it would hurt quite a bit. By the time Hana and her team arrived, the arena was already half full with aliens who had come to witness this unusual event. Most had never seen a human before, let alone watched one fight without weapons. The betting pools had opened the night before, and according to the information board scattered around the station, the odds against Hana winning were 100 to 1. Ambassador Nam Junho sat in the VIP section along with other diplomatic representatives from various worlds. His face showed worry and doubt as he watched Hana enter the preparation area below the main arena floor. Diplomatic attaché Oseo Jin sat beside him, trying to maintain a confident expression despite her obvious nervousness. "This was not wise," Nam Junho said quietly to his aide. "If she loses badly, it will damage human credibility throughout the galaxy. Other species will see us as weak and foolish, making trade agreements and defense treaties much more difficult to negotiate." Oseojin nodded but kept her voice steady. "However, if she wins, it could change everything. Humans would no longer be seen as the weakest members of the Galactic Council." In the press area, reporters from news organizations across known space set up their recording equipment. The Galactic News Network had sent their best correspondent, a tall insectoid creature called Veltar, who specialized in covering unusual sporting events. Next to him sat reporter An Daehyun, the only human journalist on the station, who struggled to hide his own doubts about his species' chances. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations," Veltar announced into his recording device. "Today we witness what may be the shortest fight in arena history. A single human female has challenged 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous fighters to unarmed combat, claiming that her species possesses fighting abilities that have been underestimated." An Daehyun activated his own recording equipment and tried to sound more confident than he felt. "This reporter has had the opportunity to observe Captain Lee Hana in training, and I can confirm that she possesses remarkable physical skills. Whether these skills will be sufficient against opponents with significant biological advantages remains to be seen." The 3 champions entered the arena to thunderous cheers from the crowd. First came Gorth, the Krillian berserker, who stood over 8 feet tall with muscles that bulged under his gray-green skin. Natural armor plates covered his shoulders, arms, and chest, making him look like a walking tank. When he raised his arms to acknowledge the crowd's cheers, his biceps were bigger than Hana's entire torso. Next entered Zixara, the Nexari assassin, moving with liquid grace across the arena floor. Her body was lean and flexible like a cat's, covered in dark fur with silver stripes. Her hands ended in claws that could extend and retract like a knife blade, and her yellow eyes tracked every movement around her with predatory focus. When she demonstrated her speed by running a complete circle around the arena in seconds, the crowd roared with approval. Finally, Thon Kar stepped onto the arena floor, his metallic Vorthan features gleaming under the bright lights. Electricity danced between his fingers as he showed off his energy manipulation abilities, creating sparks and small lightning bolts that crackled through the air. His glowing red eyes surveyed the arena with cold calculation, already planning how to defeat his opponent with minimal effort. When Hana entered the arena, the crowd fell into confused murmurs. She wore simple training clothes and moved with calm confidence, but compared to her 3 opponents, she looked small and fragile. No claws, no armor, no visible special abilities, just a human woman who seemed absurdly outmatched. The referee was a crystalline entity, a being made of living crystal that served as a neutral party in all arena competitions. Its voice rang out clearly across the arena as it explained the rules in multiple languages simultaneously. This contest will be fought under standard arena regulations. No weapons, no armor, no external assistance of any kind. Victory is achieved by submission, unconsciousness, or death. Medical teams are standing by to provide immediate assistance to any participant who requires it. Kexthul appeared in the VIP section, his metallic face twisted into a satisfied smile as he watched the preparations below. He had chosen these 3 champions specifically because each represented a different type of combat advantage. Gorth would test the human's ability to handle overwhelming physical force. Zixara would challenge her speed and reflexes. Thonkar would determine whether she could deal with ranged energy attacks. "Begin positioning for combat," the crystalline referee announced. The 3 alien champions spread out in a triangle formation around Hana, each one taking a position that would allow them to attack from a different angle. This was a standard multiple opponent strategy, designed to prevent the target from focusing on any single threat while leaving no escape route. Gorth cracked his knuckles, producing sounds like breaking tree branches. His strategy was simple: and direct. He would charge forward with irresistible force and crush his opponent before the others even had a chance to attack. In his experience, most fights ended within the first few seconds when faced with his overwhelming physical superiority. Zixara crouched low to the ground, her claws extended and her muscles coiled like springs ready to release. She planned to wait for Gorth's charge to distract the human, then strike from the side with lightning speed. Her claws could slice through metal, so human flesh would offer no resistance whatsoever. Thonkar raised his hands and began building an electrical charge. Small sparks jumping between his palms as energy accumulated. He would start with a low-power shock to stun the human, then gradually increase the voltage until she collapsed. It was clean, efficient, and would minimize the mess. Hana stood in the center of the triangle, completely relaxed with her hands, hanging loosely at her sides. She bowed respectfully to each of her opponents in turn, a gesture that puzzled the alien audience but brought proud smiles to the faces of the human diplomatic team. The crowd grew quiet as tension built in the arena. 50,000 beings held their breath, waiting to see how this unprecedented confrontation would unfold. Most expected it to be over quickly, with the human either surrendering immediately or being knocked unconscious within moments. In the human section, Park Ji-ho gripped the armrests of his seat with white knuckles. Commander Kim Subin sat rigid with tension, her military training telling her that this was a tactical disaster, but her loyalty to her captain keeping her from looking away. Dr. Yoon Minho had his medical kit ready, certain that he would be needed to treat serious injuries very soon. The crystalline referee's voice echoed across the arena one final time. Combatants, prepare for battle. Fight begins in 10 seconds. The countdown started, each number appearing on screens around the arena in the written languages of every species present. 10, 9, 8, 7. The alien champions tensed their muscles and focused their energy. 6, 5, 4, 3. Hana closed her eyes and took one deep breath, centering herself for what was about to happen. 2, 1. Begin combat. The arena erupted in noise as 50,000 spectators leaned forward to witness what they expected to be the quickest defeat in fighting history. Recording devices captured every angle as three of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors prepared to demonstrate the vast gap between evolved alien capabilities and primitive human limitations. Gorth let out a roar that shook the arena walls and charged forward like a living battering ram, his massive arms reaching out to grab and crush his tiny opponent. Zixara moved at the same instant, her body flowing across the arena floor with deadly grace. Thonkar released his electrical charge, blue-white energy crackling through the air toward the human who stood motionless in the center of the storm. This was the moment that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy, the test that would show whether humans deserved respect or pity from their alien neighbors. In the VIP section, Ambassador Nam Junho closed his eyes, unable to watch his species' reputation be destroyed in front of the entire galaxy. But Hana did not close her eyes. She opened them and smiled. The first 3 seconds changed everything. Gorth's massive form thundered across the arena floor like an avalanche of muscle and bone, his arms spread wide to grab and crush the small human who stood directly in his path. 400 pounds of Krillian berserker moving at full speed should have been unstoppable, an irresistible force that would end the fight before it truly began. But Hana was not there when he arrived. At the last possible moment, she stepped sideways with movements so smooth and precise that they seemed almost casual. Gorth's momentum carried him forward into empty air, his massive arms closing on nothing while his body continued its charge toward the arena wall. But Hana was not finished with him yet. As the giant alien passed beside her, she reached out with both hands and grabbed his right arm. Her grandfather had taught her that the secret to defeating a larger opponent was not to fight their strength, but to use it against them. Gorth's own momentum became her weapon as she twisted her body and pulled, adding her motion to his unstoppable charge. The throw was perfect, a textbook demonstration of classical Aikido principles that redirected 400 pounds of alien muscle with minimal effort. Gorth flew through the air like a stone from a catapult, his expression changing from confident aggression to shocked confusion as he realized he was no longer in control of his own movement. He struck the arena's energy, barrier with enough force to crack the reinforced material, his armor plates ringing like struck bells as his massive body crumpled to the ground. The impact knocked him unconscious instantly, leaving him lying motionless on the arena floor while 50,000 spectators sat in stunned silence. Time elapsed. 3 seconds. The crowd had barely processed what happened to Gorth when Zixara attacked. The Nexari assassin moved like liquid lightning, her claws extended and her body flowing across the arena floor with predatory grace. She had seen the human's technique against the berserker and adjusted her strategy accordingly, approaching from the side with speed that should have been impossible to counter. But humans had been dealing with fast predators for millions of years. Hana's body moved without conscious thought, muscle memory taking over as she flowed around Zixara's attack like water around a stone. The alien's razor claws sliced through the air where Hana had been standing a fraction of a second earlier, missing their target by inches as the human spun away from danger. Zixara's eyes widened in surprise as her claws found nothing but empty space. She had never encountered a creature that could match her speed without technological enhancement. Her momentum carried her past her target, leaving her temporarily vulnerable as she tried to change direction for another attack. Hana did not give her the chance. 3 precise strikes landed on the Nexari's left arm in rapid succession, each one targeting a specific nerve cluster that her grandfather had taught her to find through years of careful study. The pressure point techniques were ancient knowledge, developed by human martial artists who understood that every living creature had weak spots where the right touch could disable much larger and stronger opponents. Zixara's entire left side went numb as her nervous system overloaded from the precise strikes. Her claws retracted involuntarily, and her arm hung useless at her side as sensation fled from her fingers to her shoulder. She tried to continue her attack using only her right arm, but the loss of balance and coordination made her movements clumsy and predictable. A spinning kick caught the alien assassin in the solar plexus with surgical precision, targeting the cluster of nerves that controlled breathing and balance. Zixara doubled over as the air rushed from her lungs, her fast reflexes useless against an attack she never saw coming. A second later, she collapsed to the arena floor, conscious but unable to move or breathe properly. Time elapsed. 6 seconds total. The arena fell into complete silence as thousands of alien minds struggled to process what they had just witnessed. 2 of the galaxy's most dangerous fighters had been defeated in moments by techniques none of them had ever seen before. The human had moved with efficiency and precision that seemed almost supernatural, using her opponent's own strength and speed against them. Thonkar stood frozen in shock, his electrical charge flickering and dying as his concentration shattered. He had been preparing to deliver a stunning energy blast when his 2 allies were defeated so quickly that his mind could not keep up with events. Now he faced the human alone, his confidence evaporating like mist in sunlight. Hana turned to face her final opponent, her breathing steady and her clothes barely disturbed by the brief encounters. She looked exactly as she had when the fight began, calm and centered, showing no signs of effort or strain from defeating 2 powerful warriors in the span of 6 seconds. "Your move," she said quietly, her voice carrying clearly across the silent arena. Thonkar's hands shook as he tried to rebuild his electrical charge, but fear made it difficult to concentrate. Vorthon's needed steady focus to manipulate energy effectively, and watching his allies fall so quickly had shattered his mental composure. Small sparks jumped between his fingers, but the coherent lightning he had planned to use remained beyond his grasp. The Galactic News Network cameras captured every detail as Hana began walking toward her final opponent. Her movements were unhurried and confident, like a teacher approaching a student who needed gentle correction. There was no anger in her expression, no bloodlust or desire for violence, just calm determination to finish what had been started. Thonkar finally managed to generate a weak electrical discharge, sending crackling energy toward the approaching human. But Hana had studied the galactic database during her preparation, learning about Vorthon biology and their energy manipulation abilities. She knew that they needed both hands to channel electricity effectively, and that their energy projection had limited range and accuracy. She closed the distance between them with swift, decisive movements, staying low to avoid the wild energy blasts that Thonkar sent in her direction. The Vorthan's aim was poor because of his fear and confusion, his energy bolts striking the arena floor and walls while Hana moved closer with each missed shot. When she reached striking distance, Hana demonstrated the grappling techniques that had been perfected by Brazilian jiu-jitsu masters over centuries of refinement. She grabbed both of Thonkar's wrists in a specific grip that controlled his hands while preventing him from generating electrical charges. The alien's energy manipulation abilities required precise finger movements and mental focus, both of which became impossible when his hands were trapped and controlled. Thonkar tried to break free using his superior physical strength, but Hana had positioned herself with mechanical precision that made his struggles useless. She shifted her grip smoothly, wrapping one arm around his neck while maintaining control of his hands with her other arm. The blood choke was applied with textbook perfection, pressure applied to the arteries that carried blood to the brain while carefully avoiding damage to the windpipe or spine. Thonkar's struggles grew weaker as oxygen stopped reaching his brain, his vision darkening as consciousness faded away like a dimming light. Within seconds, he was unconscious, his body going limp in Hana's arms as she gently lowered him to the arena floor. She checked his pulse to ensure he was uninjured, then stood up and looked around at the thousands of shocked alien faces staring down at her from the arena seats. Total fight time, 9 seconds. The silence stretched on for long moments as the reality of what had happened sank into 50,000 alien minds. 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous fighters had been defeated by a single human using nothing but her body and her knowledge. No weapons, no technology, no natural advantages, just techniques that had been developed and refined by human warriors over thousands of years. In the VIP section, Ambassador Nam Junho opened his eyes and stared at the arena floor where Hana stood calmly among her 3 unconscious opponents. His mouth hung open in amazement as he tried to process the implications of what he had just witnessed. Diplomatic attaché. Oh Seojin grabbed his arm with excitement, lighting up her face. Do you understand what this means? Every species in the galaxy just watched a human demonstrate combat abilities they did not know existed. This changes everything. In the press area, reporter An Dae-hyun struggled to find words for his live broadcast to Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just witnessed something that will be talked about throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Captain Lee Hana has not only defeated 3 alien champions, she has done so with such speed and efficiency that most observers did not even understand what techniques she was using. Veltar, the veteran Galactic News Network correspondent, spoke into his recording device with genuine amazement in his voice. In 30 years of covering arena combat, this reporter has never seen anything like what we have just witnessed. The human fighter displayed combat skills that appear to be based on scientific principles unknown to modern galactic civilization. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor to check on the defeated champions, but they found no serious injuries despite the devastating effectiveness of Hana's techniques. Gorth had a mild concussion from his impact with the energy barrier. Zixara was slowly recovering feeling in her left arm as the nerve disruption faded. The silence that followed the fight lasted for nearly a full minute before the first alien in the crowd began to clap slowly, unsure if what they had witnessed deserved applause or fearful respect. The sound spread gradually through the arena as 50,000 beings processed the impossible thing they had just seen. A single human defeating 3 elite warriors with techniques none of them understood. Hana remained calm in the center of the arena while medical teams finished checking on her defeated opponents. Her breathing was steady, her posture relaxed, showing no signs of strain or effort from the brief but decisive battle. When reporters and officials began approaching her for statements, she raised one hand to request silence. Before anyone asks questions, I want to make something clear, she said, her voice carrying easily across the arena through the amplification system. What you saw today was not magic or hidden technology. These were techniques developed by human warriors over thousands of years, fighting arts that my species has practiced and perfected, while other civilizations abandoned physical combat in favor of energy weapons and natural advantages. A crystalline reporter extended a recording device toward her, its faceted surface reflecting the arena lights like a prism. Captain Lee, How is it possible for a human to defeat opponents with such significant biological advantages? Your species lacks the natural weapons and armor possessed by your opponents. Hana smiled gently, remembering her grandfather's teachings about the importance of understanding rather than simply demonstrating power. That is exactly why human fighting techniques became so sophisticated. When you have no claws, no armor, no energy projection abilities, you must develop something better. You must develop knowledge. She gestured toward the 3 alien champions, who were slowly recovering with the help of medical personnel. Gorth relied on his strength and armor, so he never learned to use leverage and momentum effectively. Zixara trusted her speed and claws, so she never studied anatomy and pressure points. Thonkar depended on his energy abilities, so he never practiced close-quarters grappling techniques. The crowd leaned forward to hear her explanation. Thousands of alien minds trying to understand concepts that had been forgotten by galactic civilization for millennia. Many species had natural fighting abilities built into their biology, but none had developed systematic methods for unarmed combat like humans had been forced to create. My species learned to fight without natural weapons by studying the weaknesses present in every living creature, Hana continued. We discovered that size and strength mean nothing if you know where to apply pressure. Speed becomes useless if you can predict your opponent's movements. Energy weapons are ineffective if you can control the hands that direct them. Kexthul appeared at the edge of the arena, his metallic face showing confusion and anger as he struggled to accept what had happened. The Vorthan trade minister had expected to humiliate humanity and prove their weakness to the galaxy, but instead he had given them a platform to demonstrate abilities that no other species possessed. This proves nothing, Kexthul declared, his voice echoing across the arena. These were just 3 individuals. Human combat techniques, if they truly exist, would be useless against modern energy weapons and advanced technology. Hana turned to face the Vorthan minister, her expression remaining calm despite the obvious hostility in his words. You are correct that these techniques were developed for personal combat, not battlefield warfare, but you missed the larger point entirely. She walked toward the edge of the arena where Kexthul stood, her movements confident and unhurried. You believe that evolution means abandoning everything that came before in favor of whatever is newest and most powerful. But my species learned that true strength comes from building upon the foundations of the past while adapting to the challenges of the future. The arena's communication system crackled to life as messages began arriving from across the galaxy. News of the fight had spread through quantum communication networks faster than light itself, reaching every civilized world within hours. Alien governments, military organizations, and academic institutions were all requesting more information about human combat techniques. Ambassador Nam Junho approached the arena floor with his diplomatic team, his face showing amazement and growing excitement as he began to understand the opportunities this event had created. Captain, we are receiving contact requests from over 200 different organizations. The Krillian War Council wants to send a delegation to Earth to study your fighting methods. The Nexari Intelligence Service is asking about training exchanges. Even the Vorthan Military Academy is inquiring about human martial arts instruction. Dr. Yoon Minho had finished his medical examination of Hana and announced his findings to the crowd. For the record, Captain Lee shows no signs of injury or excessive fatigue from this encounter. Her heart rate and breathing are only slightly elevated from normal resting levels, indicating that this level of combat activity was well within her physical capabilities. This news sent another wave of amazement through the alien spectators. They had expected the human to be exhausted or injured, even if she somehow managed to win, but instead she appeared to have been barely challenged by opponents who were considered elite warriors by galactic standards. Commander Kim Subin activated her communication device and reported the flood of incoming messages. Captain, we are also receiving priority communications from Earth. The Global Defense Council wants a full report on your techniques. The International Martial Arts Federation is requesting permission to establish training programs for other human colonies. And your grandfather Lee Do-hyun has sent another personal message. The holographic display activated again, showing the image of the elderly Korean man who had taught Hana everything she knew about fighting. His weathered face showed pride and satisfaction as he spoke to his granddaughter across the vast distance. Between stars. My dear Hana, the whole world watched your demonstration today, and I want you to know that every martial arts school on Earth is celebrating your victory. You have shown the galaxy something they have never seen before. But more importantly, you have reminded our own people why the old ways are still valuable in a universe full of new challenges. Lee Do-yun's image smiled warmly. When I was young, many people said that martial arts were obsolete in an age of advanced weapons and technology. Today you proved that knowledge and skill can never become obsolete because they adapt to any situation and overcome any challenge. The message continued with practical advice. I am sending detailed curriculum information to the Galactic Council, archives along with training videos from masters around the world. If other species want to learn our fighting arts, we should teach them. Knowledge shared is knowledge strengthened. Park Ji-ho approached Hana with data pad in hand, his earlier worry replaced by excitement and pride in his captain's achievement. Captain, the Galactic Council has called an emergency session to discuss the implications of today's demonstration. They want you to address the full assembly about human combat capabilities and their potential applications. Hana nodded thoughtfully, as she considered the responsibilities that came with her victory. This was never about proving that humans are superior fighters. It was about showing that every species has something valuable to contribute to galactic civilization, even if that contribution is not immediately obvious. She looked around the arena at the thousands of alien faces watching her with new respect and curiosity. My species developed these techniques because we had to survive in a dangerous world without natural weapons. Other species developed different abilities because they faced different challenges. The strength of the Galactic Council should come from combining all of our different capabilities, not from assuming that the newest or most obvious advantages are always the best. The crystalline referee approached Hana with what might have been respect in its multifaceted voice. Captain Lee, your demonstration today has shown the arena's audience combat principles that have not been seen in galactic civilization for over 2,000 years. The Arena Council would like to request that you consider establishing a training program here on Kepler Station. More requests and offers continued to arrive as word of the fight spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had never shown interest in physical training began asking about human martial arts schools. Military academies wanted to add unarmed combat courses to their curriculum. Even peaceful civilizations expressed interest in learning techniques that emphasized precision and control over brute force. Hana spent the next several hours answering questions and explaining basic principles of human martial arts to fascinated alien reporters and officials. She demonstrated slow-motion versions of the techniques she had used, breaking down each movement and explaining the scientific principles behind leverage, momentum, anatomy, and pressure points. The three defeated champions, now fully recovered from their brief unconsciousness, approached Hana with expressions of curiosity rather than anger or shame. Gorth, the massive Krillian berserker, spoke first. Human warrior, I do not understand how you used my own strength against me. My people have always believed that greater strength always defeats lesser strength.